Alcohol is rarely seen for what it truly is. To most, it looks like nothing more than a drink, a symbol of fun, culture, relaxation, or sophistication. Yet beneath the glass lies something far older, far stranger, and far more destructive than society is willing to admit. It isn't just a liquid that changes your mood. It is a subtle but potent weapon of disconnection, an ancient tool dressed up as modern entertainment. And when you step back and examine it through both history and spirit, you see that the cost is not just your health, but your clarity, your alignment, and your sovereignty. Think about it. You were not born craving alcohol. Your body never once, as a child, longed for the burn of whiskey, the sting of vodka, or the numb haze of wine. Those cravings were taught. They were implanted into you long before your first sip, woven into celebrations, rituals, films, family gatherings, and cultural habits. The drink has been normalized to the point that questioning it feels like rebellion. But just because something is common does not mean it is harmless. In fact, the deeper you go, the clearer it becomes. Alcohol does not free you, it cages you. Its story is not rooted in breweries or wineries. Its roots stretch back into dusty temples, alchemical laboratories, and mystical rites. The very word itself tells a story that has been forgotten. Derived from ancient Arabic, it originally described a fine black powder used around the eyes, but alchemists carried the meaning further. To them, alcohol was the process of extracting the spirit from matter. It was the volatile essence, the soul pulled from substance. This is why, to this day, alcoholic beverages are called spirits. It was never just a metaphor, it was a warning. In those older times, alcohol was not taken casually. It was feared and revered because it was understood to open doors between worlds, to alter the very energy of the one who consumed it. It was reserved for rituals, initiations, and ceremonies of passage. The ancients recognized something modern culture has buried. Alcohol does not simply make you drunk, it makes you vulnerable. It shifts your frequency, it dulls your awareness, and it lowers the very field of energy that protects you. Over time, that reverence was lost. What was once sacred became trivial. What was once seen as powerful became marketed as playful. Wine to the gods of Egypt, ale to the gods of Sumer, and offerings to Dionysus were never about Friday nights and social mixers. They were acknowledgments of alcohol's dangerous potential. But as centuries passed, the sacred edge was dulled. What had been a spiritual key became a social crutch. And in that shift, humanity lost something important: the ability to recognize the spiritual cost behind the casual glass. Because make no mistake, alcohol does far more than disrupt your liver or impair your motor skills. It dulls your inner voice. It mutes the guidance system that whispers to you through intuition. It numbs the exact part of you designed to keep you aligned with your higher path. You think you are celebrating, relaxing, connecting. In reality, you are silencing the very compass that could guide you to what you truly need. Every ancient tradition speaks of energy. Some call it aura, some chi, some prana, some the light body. Regardless of name, it is understood as the subtle field around you, the unseen immune system that guards your spirit and holds your vitality. This field is what helps you sense danger before it arrives, feel resonance in people, and connect to your higher knowing. When intact, it is your shield. But alcohol doesn't leave that shield untouched. It creates fractures, tiny tears through which foreign energies can enter. That is why after drinking, many feel scattered, drained, emotionally unstable, or even heavy in ways they cannot explain. It is not just dehydration or fatigue. It is energetic disturbance. Alcohol overstimulates the lower chakras tied to survival and pleasure while dulling the crown, the seat of higher connection. The result is simple. You feel alive in the flesh but cut off in the spirit, and the more you repeat the habit, the more that imbalance becomes normal. Modern science is only beginning to brush against these truths, noticing correlations between drinking and mood disorders, dependency and brainwave shifts. But mystics, shamans and sages warned of this long ago. They knew intoxication wasn't just an altered state, it was an open door. And the question is, to what? Some teachings call them parasitic entities, others astral feeders, others forces of confusion. Different names, same idea. When your energy field is compromised, You are more easily influenced by forces that thrive on disconnection. These forces do not arrive with horns and fire. They whisper as cravings, compulsions, thoughts that feel like yours but push you deeper into cycles of emptiness. Drinking becomes not just a choice, but a feedback loop, reinforced by whispers of just one more. Have you ever noticed how different a person can become under heavy intoxication? Their eyes shift, their essence seems absent, their actions may turn unpredictable. Sometimes it is violent, sometimes simply hollow. That is not just psychology. It is the dimming of the self, the stepping back of consciousness, leaving the body partially vacant. And in those gaps, anything can step forward. That is why alcohol is so often linked with regret, with chaos, with destruction of relationships, and self. Because when you dull awareness, you lose sovereignty. You lose the ability to choose consciously. You are reactive, suggestible, open to influence from both the physical and the unseen. And this isn't superstition. It is a reality repeated across cultures for millennia. Yet society doesn't teach this. It only tells you alcohol lowers inhibition, loosens you up, makes you sociable. It gives you the shallow story while hiding the deeper one. It doesn't tell you that intoxication is an energetic signature that says to the world, I am open, I am unguarded, I am no longer fully present. And in that state, what enters your field may not always leave with you. What makes alcohol dangerous is its subtlety. It doesn't confront you with obvious destruction. Instead, it whispers in pleasure. It offers laughter, lightness, and temporary relief. For a few hours, the anxiety seems quiet, the overthinking stills, and you feel bold, alive, uninhibited. You tell yourself, this is the real me. But what if it's not? What if that version is not your truth breaking free, but your awareness slipping away? That is the trap. Alcohol doesn't resolve your pain. It only suppresses the signals. Your fear, your doubts, your discomfort, these are not enemies, they are messengers pointing to misalignment, guiding you toward healing. When you drink, you silence them, but the silence is not peace, it is suppression. And what you suppress doesn't vanish, it festers, it compounds, it grows louder in the shadows until you need another drink to push it back down again. This is why the cycle feels endless. Because alcohol doesn't heal, it hides. And while it hides, it convinces you that you need it, that your true self is only available in the haze. But your true self never needed a substance. Your true self is always here, buried beneath the noise, waiting for you to listen without interference. The cultural programming is deep. From childhood, you saw glasses raised at weddings, bottles in movies, ads dripping with glamour, songs glorifying intoxication. You absorbed the script. Celebration equals drinking, relaxation equals drinking, bonding equals drinking. By the time you were old enough to taste it, the ritual was already etched into your subconscious. To refuse it felt like refusing belonging. But this wasn't an accident. Entire industries profit from your compliance. They don't sell alcohol, they sell the illusion that you are incomplete without it. They sell the idea that sobriety is dull, that stillness is emptiness, that joy requires a bottle. It is psychological programming, reinforced through marketing, through peer pressure, through generational conditioning. And the brilliance of the design is that it makes you think you chose it. Yet beneath all of this conditioning lies a truth you can feel, but rarely name. Alcohol is not instinct. It is indoctrination. And when you finally see that, something inside begins to stir. You remember that you were whole before the drink, that joy, courage, and freedom are not sold in bars. They are born in you. Across traditions from east to west, the same warning echoes. The Bhagavad Gita speaks of clarity as the path to higher states. Buddhism warns that intoxicants cloud awareness and multiply suffering. Taoism emphasizes balance and flow, which alcohol disrupts. Christianity and Islam, in different ways, caution against drunkenness not from judgment, but from recognition of its impact on the soul. The message is the same. Presence is power, and intoxication dilutes presence. You don't need to be a saint or ascetic to see the pattern. You just need to be honest. Alcohol promises transcendence but delivers confusion. It offers connection but leaves you more fragmented. It looks like freedom but feels like dependency. And in a world already drowning in noise, the last thing you need is more disconnection. Yet there is hope in this awareness, because what alcohol damages, presence can restore. Your energy field is not fragile, it is resilient. The tears can be mended, the light can be relit. Through practices of mindfulness, breathwork, meditation, movement, and nature, you can rebuild coherence. You can gather the scattered parts of yourself and remember the signal beneath the static. And in that remembering, you awaken to a truth alcohol worked so hard to bury. You were never broken. You never needed a glass to be brave, to be alive, to be connected. You only needed to stop running from yourself. Freedom from alcohol is not about deprivation. It is not about denying yourself pleasure or cutting yourself off from joy. It is about reclaiming what was always yours, but cleverly hidden from you. The ability to feel fully alive without needing an external crutch. For too long, people have confused intoxication with liberation, mistaking numbness for peace, and mistaking suppression for courage. Yet when you begin to peel away the illusion, you see that real freedom has nothing to do with a bottle. Real freedom is waking up clear, remembering every word, every feeling, every moment. It is standing in your own skin without needing to dull it. It is trusting yourself so deeply that you don't feel compelled to mute your instincts or lower your guard to fit in. The irony is that the version of you that alcohol seems to unlock is not the truest you. It is a distorted reflection, a mask born from suppression. The real you, the bold, free, connected you, doesn't require intoxication. It requires presence. But presence is hard in a culture built on escape. We live in a system that encourages distraction over depth, numbing over noticing, performing over feeling. Alcohol fits neatly into that system because it gives you a shortcut, a way to mute your awareness quickly, to silence the inner restlessness without having to face it. That's why so many turn to it. Not because they love the taste, not because it truly heals, but because it provides a fast escape hatch from discomfort. Yet, what is discomfort really? It is information. It is the body's way of telling you something needs attention. Anxiety is not your enemy, it is your compass. Sadness is not weakness, it is honesty. Even fear has wisdom embedded within it. When you choose to feel them, instead of drown them, you learn what they have to teach. You grow, you heal, you expand. But when you mute them with alcohol, you press pause. The lesson waits, and so does the discomfort, building layer upon layer until it becomes heavier than you imagined. This is the cycle so many are trapped in, avoiding discomfort through drinking, then carrying even more discomfort from the consequences of drinking. The very thing they hoped would ease their suffering multiplies it, and so the next time the pain rises, the reflex is to reach for the glass again. That is not freedom. That is entrapment, disguised as celebration. But here's the truth. The system only works if you forget you have another option. It depends on your silence, your compliance, your willingness to believe that joy is in a bottle and clarity is boring. The moment you see through that lie, the power shifts. You realize you don't need to numb your emotions. You need to honor them. You don't need to dull your energy. You need to raise it. And that can only happen when you're sober enough to notice what's really happening within you. Imagine this for a moment. Walking into a gathering without alcohol and not feeling awkward. Imagine laughing with friends and knowing the laughter is real, not chemically fueled. Imagine intimacy, where you remember every touch, every word, every breath. Imagine mornings where you wake with gratitude instead of regret. That is not boring, that is powerful. And the more you taste it, the more you realize how counterfeit the old way was. Many spiritual traditions describe sobriety not as abstinence, but as awakening. To remain awake in a world that numbs itself is an act of rebellion. To remain clear in a society addicted to fog is an act of devotion, not to any external authority, but to your own soul. When you are present, you are sovereign. Nothing can hijack your energy without your awareness. Nothing can whisper lies into your field because your light is too strong to allow it. That is why clarity has always been honored as sacred. Alcohol, by contrast, clouds that light. It trades your clarity for chaos, your sovereignty for suggestion, your presence for performance. And while the world cheers you on for loosening up, Your spirit quietly mourns the disconnection. That's why so many people confess that after drinking they feel off, not just physically but spiritually. They feel a heaviness they can't name, a hollowness that lingers. That is the soul reminding them that what was lost is not worth the trade. And yet healing is always possible. The body has an extraordinary capacity to regenerate. The mind can rewire itself. The energy field can mend. You are not broken. You are not beyond repair. What alcohol weakened can be strengthened again. What was dimmed can be reignited. The path forward is not about perfection, but about returning to presence, to honesty, to the simplicity of listening again. Every practice that centers you, meditation, breathwork, yoga, prayer, journaling, time in nature, helps stitch the fractures in your aura. Every conscious choice to stay present rather than numb rebuilds your frequency, and slowly the fog lifts. The cravings weaken, the illusions unravel. What once felt impossible becomes natural, even joyful, because you're no longer running from yourself, you're walking with yourself. And when that shift happens, everything changes. You notice your creativity flowing more easily, not in manic bursts, but in steady waves of inspiration. You find connections with others becoming more authentic because you're no longer hiding behind an altered state. You rediscover emotions, and instead of fearing them, you let them move through you. Anger teaches you boundaries. Sadness teaches you compassion. Joy teaches you gratitude. Presence teaches you power. This is what alcohol tried to imitate but could never sustain. It gives you a temporary sense of confidence, but at the cost of your sovereignty. It gives you a moment of connection, but at the cost of your authenticity. It gives you a fleeting silence, but at the cost of your clarity. The price is always too high. When you step back and see it for what it is, you realize that alcohol was never your friend. It was never your ally. It was a thief, dressed as a gift. And every time you said yes to it, it took something from you. Your clarity, your alignment, your energy. But awareness is the end of its power. Once you see the trick, you cannot be fooled again. The journey away from alcohol is not about restriction. It is about remembering that joy is your birthright, not something you need to purchase. Remembering that courage is already in you, not something you need to borrow. Remembering that your energy field is sacred, and it deserves protection, not punishment. So the next time you feel the urge to reach for a drink, pause. Ask yourself, what am I truly seeking? Is it relief, connection, courage, wholeness? Whatever the answer, know this: alcohol cannot give it to you. At best, it gives you a shadow of it. At worst, it steals it from you entirely. The real version is only found when you face yourself fully sober, fully present, fully alive, and yes, that can be uncomfortable at first. Sitting with your emotions instead of drowning them may feel raw. Facing your social anxiety without numbing it may feel intimidating. But on the other side of that discomfort is strength you didn't know you had. On the other side is a clarity so sharp it cuts through illusions. On the other side is a freedom so deep it doesn't need a bottle to sustain it. That is why ancient teachings warned about intoxication. Not because they wanted to rob you of pleasure, but because they wanted to protect your power. They knew what modern culture has forgotten: that clarity is sacred, presence is rare, and sovereignty is priceless. They knew that anything that dulls the mind opens the door to chaos. And they urged their students to stay awake, to guard their light, to honor their vessel. And now you know too. You know that alcohol doesn't free you, it binds you. You know that the craving is not instinct but conditioning. You know that every sip is a choice not just about your body, but about your spirit. And with that knowledge comes responsibility, because now you can choose differently. This is not about judgment. It is about liberation. It is about choosing presence over performance, clarity over confusion, authenticity over illusion. It is about remembering that the most powerful version of you is the one who doesn't need to be altered to feel whole. That version of you has always been there. It is waiting beneath the programming, beneath the cravings, beneath the fog. And once you meet it, you'll never need alcohol again, because what you were chasing in the glass was never alcohol. It was yourself. And now you are ready to stop chasing. You are ready to come home.